Now let's get into today's subject. I hope you find it useful, for it can help you overcome your own earthly fears. Let me start out by asking this question, and in reality you should ask this question to your own mind. Can I separate my awareness from my earthly identity? By that I mean, can I actually realize that my awareness is not the same as the name and position I now occupy in life? And if I can grasp and accept this, what is there to fear when death comes knocking? For it would only mean I am letting go of an identity that was never permanent, since the name and identity I now hold in the physical world is part of this dimension. This dimension operates in a realm of time and space, meaning nothing of what we are from that angle is permanent. We grow old and then we die, so we have to become aware of the actual consciousness that is operating through the body and is using the body to function in this dimension of time and space. As we become self-aware of this mysterious power called consciousness, slowly but surely the bigger picture starts to be developed and revealed to your own mortal mind. That is the best way to describe it. Forever and ever throughout eternity, a deeper aspect of you is trying to grab your attention. If you are worried, sick and tired of life, it is this mighty one within that we call our own human awareness that invites you to come over so you may rest. For when the night falls and the desire for sleep overtakes you, that is what happens. You can rest from all the struggles of your physical life. But if you are not embracing the rest, if you don't understand the divine reason for sleeping, you might find yourself facing all sorts of surreal, horrifying experiences in your mind when the body takes its little nap. Now, even though many might scoff at what I have to say next, I will still say it anyway. It was written in many spiritual texts that there exists a creature of demonic proportions. They might call it Lucifer. He was the light bringer, light bearer, the bright one, morning star, all these names. Then he became Satan, the devil, Mara, the bringer of death. If you look into the texts, you will find it. Now they describe this being in very similar ways, as one filled with pride, as one who considers himself above God, who thinks himself the greatest of all. Well, if you look at humanity carefully and how they behave, you will find many who seem to act like this so-called Satan. Perhaps they are being led astray by Satan himself. Who knows? Instead of going along with that line of reasoning, it fits better in my own understanding to consider the symbolic fall of humanity as simply as moving through certain states of the mind. So you can see human beings who actually are filled with pride. They love the reflection they see in the mirror. They are so obsessed with themselves and how the world perceives them. You might as well call them all the embodiment of Satan. Where then is the way to salvation from this aspect of Satan? Well, in spiritual texts they revealed the concept of the enlightened one, Christ consciousness, etc. They give an indication as to how a human being can overcome and outgrow all these negative tendencies that exist in their own mind. This is all a wonderful journey in the end, for it is true, you are in the process of being redeemed to a glory that is beyond anything on earth. As long as we worship the physical side of life, and those parts of ourselves alone, we are being misled, we are not living in harmony. We have to bring both the manifested and unmanifested together so we can truly worship life in all of its glory. To dismiss one side, which many do, specifically the unmanifested, they say, please don't ask me to consider things that are invisible, for then I actually have to exercise the greatest power that was given to me, my own mind. That is the plea of most human beings. You can see this if you are observant. Maybe you are not as observant as I am, but I don't just look with my eyes. I try and sense the meaning behind physical phenomena. I am not just interested in physical results. I am interested in the invisible cause that lies behind all of it. That is from where my words flow. So you see, if you dismiss either the manifested or the unmanifested, you are not seeing the full picture. You have to actually learn to see both sides and how they function while you go through life. For not until you do, a form of recurrence takes place. You don't realize it, but you always forget. But you keep living through a cycle of life and death until you finally learned how to consciously take charge of your own mind and direct it towards a totally different realm of existence, a place that lies beyond time and space, and your own dreams at night are forever trying to hint at its existence, but you keep forgetting that it is happening, or you are simply unable to discern the meaning behind what you are actually witnessing there. We have to be vigilant. If one contemplates life as a struggle, life feels like a burden. If one contemplates life as a wonderful and epic journey, to them it will be experienced just like that. No matter how horrifying the outward appearances of life may become, you might be wondering, well, what does this have to do with the fear of overcoming death? Well, it simply means that you start to realize that death is nothing more than moving out of form into another form. Everywhere in the universe you see evidence of this process. Energy is constantly moving into form and out of form. Concrete forms are built and over time break down, but forever and ever the one substance out of which everything arose stays intact. Truly, it seems to be an infinite source of supply from which all physical matter receives its form, including your own current existence. Think about that. Don't dismiss it, and also don't be afraid of it either. Some people are actually afraid of the truth, but don't be. You are always forgiven, for positive and negative states of mind will always exist inside this one source of substance out of which all things originate. So if you did bad stuff in the past, forget it. Others might remember, let them. You simply have to learn to forgive yourself and everyone else. Then you won't have to fear death. Humanity is bound by shackles that is tying their minds to concrete reality. Somewhere in the depths of our minds we fear we will burn in hell forever, or we won't reach heaven, or there's total oblivion after I die. I read it earlier, even doctors and scientists would simply tell you, when you die, everything about you vanishes forever and nothing is left behind. Well, that is quite a pessimistic look to a certain extent. If anywhere I go in consciousness determines what I call reality, then surely if I can move to different places as I put this body to sleep for a few hours, it must mean I don't vanish. Well, I do vanish for those left behind in time and space. That is how we should dare to believe it to be. Now consider the following. I've been holding a little experiment every night before I fall asleep. I focus intensely on the center point of my heart and brain. That is the only way I can describe it in words. It is out of this world, my behavior. As I do it, I can feel my body fall asleep. It becomes stiff like a corpse. But I can notice it is breathing and my heart is still beating, so it is not dead. Then as I'm absorbed into the darkness of my own mind, I notice it becomes a three-dimensional reality, and I was in essence mentally blind. I kept focusing intensely and the sensation came over me like a storm inside my own skull, as if my consciousness was being quite literally extracted from my body, and it was then that I noticed I was about to lose all awareness. And I actually did. It is this moment right here, when we become temporarily unconscious of our own body and this earth, that gives us the ability to enter these other worlds we enter when we normally go to sleep. But the difficulty so far, even for me, lies in actually figuring out if I can pull it off to stay aware. But the sensation can be shocking and disturbing, feeling that you are literally removed from your own body. Still, I will put it to the ultimate test and keep this experiment going for the rest of my life if I have to, until I'm able to actually step out of my own body at will. Imagine the wisdom and revelations revealed to you. It would solve and remove so many worries of our earthly existence if we could just lie down, close our eyes and almost instantly step into another dimension of our being. Just imagine the hope that is in store for the person who can actually achieve this state of mind. It is my belief one day we will all be able to do just that, but we have to be determined to achieve that state of mind. It is not forced on us out of nowhere. Again, you might think my reasoning insane, but carefully consider it. In order for us to enter this so-called dream world, a world that is worshipped in many ancient texts, we have to temporarily lose our awareness of our bodies and this life, or else we seem to be unable to just move towards that realm where we go when we are dreaming. Can't you see the immense beauty that is right there? If we were able to enter that dimension whenever we please. Oh, we can already do it, but it's usually accompanied by a state of total unawareness of being there. But if we can actually enter that place of our being at will and be aware we are there, oh, how petty the fear of death would become. How great the joy of those who are able to do this. They are freed from all fear of death and suffering, for they can fulfill everything instantly within their own consciousness in these other realms of the mind. Our consciousness was always tied to the universe itself all along, which ultimately is called in spiritual text the Creator or God. Again, you might mock all these terms, but humanity can't deny there's some truth to these aspects I am telling you, at least if they actually consider it deeply and actually give it a try for themselves. Your sorrows for losing a loved one will be greatly softened and reduced, for I know from personal experience that this happens. After I got sober, then finally something happened. I met a woman in another dimension of my being. I knew I was not on earth, and I did not recognize this woman physically, but I knew intuitively it was my mother who passed away, and as I approached her she called me by my earthly name. I asked her how this was possible, for I thought she was dead, and she spoke the words that she was given renewed life by the universe, our own wonderful human consciousness. There I saw evidence that it is true. If you die, your consciousness simply moves on, and wherever you go, that is what you will always call reality. Do not be afraid of death, and don't condemn yourself for temporarily losing your way, for we all do as we go through all these wonderful states of the mind that exist throughout eternity. You wield the power of resurrection. You can resurrect dead people inside other dimensions of your being. You can talk to them just like you talk to people here while you are alive. Can you grasp how wonderful that is? The only fear we ever have exists because we don't yet grasp the truth from our current point of view. But if we seek, we shall find it. We can only do our best and try and achieve actual self-realization while we are going through this current lifetime. For it is ultimately the only thing worth achieving. No money, no status, no amount of earthly success can amount to the achievement of that form of awakening.